I don't believe in paint-by-numbers collections. While I try to keep mine as diverse as possible, I get annoyed when reading any serious collector should have this watch or that one. Despite that, or rather because of it, I developed a love-hate relationship with Seiko. I bought a fair share of the watches produced by the Japanese icon with the hope that eventually I will find one that I would keep in my panoply, but I came to realize that in my under $500 per watch budget, a collector is better off looking elsewhere, as the reality of today is that Seiko strayed far away from their original mission to offer quality watches for affordable prices. While fans of the brand are quick to deny it, truth is the fabled Seiko quality became strongly correlated to the price, as in, if you want to play, you gotta pay. So I did what no sane person would do, but what any watch collector ends up doing. I increased the budget. First try didn't go so well, as evidenced by the duel between the King Samurai Black Edition and the Wise Adamascus 88 that I documented in the video here. I will end up selling the Seiko Diver as it brings nothing special to my collection. Naturally, I went ahead and bought another Seiko. Well, technically, I didn't buy it as I traded a few of my timepieces for it on Serious Watches, a website I cannot recommend enough to European collectors. I wore it for a couple of weeks and the verdict is in. So, is this one a keeper, or will my collection remain Seiko-less? Starting off, as always with the case, while its proportions are spot on, it's the details that make you pause. We have a finely brushed midsection, and then every polished surface on either side of it comes in incongruent pairs. This clever trick gives the case a very dynamic presence, as one surface seems to be the support of its pair. The step-down bezel is the first and more obvious example of this playing with volumes, and the delicately scooped thin rings under it, being perfectly equal in size, emphasize the greatest feature of the mid-case: the way it flexes up towards the lugs, partially hiding the bottom ring. The finishing of the lugs is extremely interesting, as it manages two things, each evident depending on the onlooker's point of view. Looking at the watch dead on, having the polished parts of the lugs on the outside slims them down, while looking at it from an angle will reveal a fluent polished line, breaking the satin-like mid-case lugs ensemble. Finally, the case back is microns smaller than the bottom of the case, adding the final touch to a construction that manages to combine classic voluptuous curves with modern angular cuts. Of course, the watch is not perfect. This modern interpretation of their fabled first sports watch, the Seiko Alpinist, was launched on the anniversary of 140 years of Seiko, so the lack of any detail pointing to this fantastic heritage is disappointing, as the unsigned crown and the caseback are ridiculously anonymous. All we get is a mineral crystal display for the 6R35 caliber that, despite being an upgrade to the 4R35, looks just as boring. A somewhat redeeming feature is the capability to withstand 20 bars of pressure, but I doubt anyone would do diving with this watch, particularly on its horsehide leather strap. The strap. Look, I'm one of those guys that wear their watches and don't mind the occasional scratch, but this strap, I don't believe I'll wear it again. I only wore it once for a couple of hours, and the marks the keeper left on its finish are an ominous sign of it aging poorly. So I wear the watch on this Erica Black Ops Marine Nationale while going through options I have to order. of course, I have to order, despite having a full box of good quality straps, because the good people at Seiko thought it would be funny to give this watch a lugs opening of 19mm. Coming back to its leather strap, I have mixed feelings about its quick release, quick adjust deployment clasp. On one hand, I like its construction and finish, and the double action of the pushers is extremely clever and ergonomic. On the other hand, the 2mm gap between the ends of the hardware is a letdown. Then, of course, because Seiko, to avoid having the logo sitting upside down, you need to swap the two ends of the strap so that the tang will point inwards. The dial of the Alpinist is breathtakingly simple. The symmetric pattern of the triangular cardinal markers is broken by the date window at 3, but despite not even being color matched to the dial, it doesn't look out of place in the slightest, particularly due to the well-executed frame bordering it. I guess one of the ways to make something look natural is to not bother trying to conceal it. The applied markers have just the right size and spacing and ensure good legibility in tandem with the sharp Dauphine hands. The coppery rose gold-like seconds hand does a great job at tying the hands together, as its overall length matches the one of the minute's hand, while its arrow just caps off the hour pointer. Broken by a minute's track that gives it an almost sector-like appearance, the emerald dial of the Laurel differs substantially from the ones of the other modern alpinists. While those dials have a fumé textured surface, this one's sunburst lacquered appearance gives it more of an elegant look and makes the light transitions more dramatic, from vibrant green to luxurious black through a vast array of nuances. And this makes the Laurel Alpinist exponentially more versatile than the other SPB Alpinists. Those are 100% sports watches that would clash with a formal attire. The Laurel Alpinist, though, is rather a dress watch that doesn't look out of place in casual circumstances, and from this point of view, I regard it as one of the finest affordable examples of what a Gada watch should be. Finally, the printing is fine, but I have to wonder how much cleaner the watch would look without the Prospex logo and the depth rating, just the automatic in its classic Seiko font glory. The slightly domed sapphire crystal does a good job of completing the somewhat bubbly shape of the case, and its heavy distortions, evident at very acute angles, does not impede on the legibility in normal circumstances. Talking about legibility, the number of layers of clear anti-reflective coating applied on the underside of the glass could have been increased, as reflections are only partially suppressed. Applied on all relevant surfaces, the blue Lumibrite compound is quick to charge and lasts just about as much as it should, considering this is not a diver. The cardinal markers benefit from the spacers that traverse them and create reference points for quick orientation. As previously mentioned, the caliber powering the watch is the 6R35 Seiko reserves for their mid-tier Prospex and Presage ranges. Pretty much an upgraded 4R35 or NH35 as otherwise known, this is by no means a fantastic movement, as the aforementioned upgrades are limited to an increased 70 hours power reserve and a slightly better declared accuracy rating between -15 and +25 seconds a day. However, very much like in the case of the miles per gallon figures announced by car manufacturers, its users will find that those accuracy intervals, despite being, let's be honest, extremely lax, will sometimes not correspond to real-world wear. Factoring in a reported fragility of the caliber when attempting to regulating it, the conclusion is that the only upgrade worth mentioning is the 70 hours power reserve. On wrist, the L'Oreal Alpinist wears great. I used to think my wrist circumference is as average as any, but I slowly started to understand 19 centimeters or 7.5 inch edges towards large. Just as slowly, I paradoxically shifted from larger to smaller watches, so I consider this 39mm to be Goldilocks for me. As said, this being a 19mm lug opening, its current wardrobe is limited, but should I decide to keep it, I plan on getting a distressed tan leather strap to dress it down and a simple black strap to dress it up. Keen ears would have picked a key sentence, should I decide to keep it. It can only mean that this is a tentative conclusion to a rather long review. It means that its striking beauty didn't make me completely overlook its flaws. It raises the question, what can I get for the money? I have an answer, but I'm extremely interested in finding out what do you think. Is this the best go anywhere do anything watch I can get for $600? Or is there another watch that will match a tuxedo just as well as it would look with jeans and a t-shirt? In a twist of fate, here I am asking for your help to find me the watch I want.